Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason and this is the Freedom Adventure. If you've been watching any of our videos up to this point, then you might know that my wife and I have been kind of in the market for some off-grid property. A property in which we can go ahead and purchase and begin our journey into building an off-grid cabin. So today we ended up driving to Podo, Oklahoma, and we went for it. We signed paperwork, we got the deal done. The property I'm standing on right now that you can see is now officially ours. Now, as you can see, there is a driveway coming up into the property, so there have been a few improvements made along the way prior to us ever getting here, and that was one of the things that actually made this property worthwhile. One of the things that made it stand above some of the others that we looked at, and there's something else that did that as well, but we're going to get to that here in just a minute. But let me go ahead and just give you a kind of a quick walkthrough, and man, we are super excited to get this done. The whole reason that we've been building the ambulance camper conversion is for a vessel in which to live after we purchase some off-grid property. And what we've got here is about 4.5 acres, and it's on the side of a mountain in southeast Oklahoma. Right now, I want to say we are approximately 4.5 hours away from the house where we live in the Oklahoma City area. But guys, I'm telling you, it's worth every minute of the drive. This place is absolutely stunning. I think you'll agree, but I'll let you decide for yourself. Okay, so I'm looking up the hill here at this point, and as you can see, we've got some pretty good sized pine trees. I don't know if those are maple, oak, or what they are, but they're beautiful and they're super, super tall. The driveway is kind of right here in front of me. It's going to require some work, folks. There's plenty of loads of shale that we're going to have to bring in here in order to get this done. But the cool part about it is somebody's actually come in here and done a little bit of dirt work, knocked down trees, and done everything they need to in order to make this accessible from the road. Now, I'll show you the road here in just a minute, but at this point, I'm just pretty thrilled that it's got this improvement already to the land. It'll save us quite a bit of headache moving forward. Not really headache necessarily, but definitely the expense of doing it. And man, this is just kind of like, this has been our dream for about the last 3, 5, maybe even 10 years, is to have a property kind of like this, just to get away from Oklahoma City area. Come out here and enjoy nature, like I always say, like God intended. There's several areas of washout here on this little road. None of them are terrible. And frankly, at this point, I'm not even really sure what to do about that. I'm sure it's going to require some dirt work, and whether or not I can do that myself remains to be seen. I've got a buddy of mine that's got quite a few pieces of equipment, many skid steers, excavators, things like that. It's possible I might be able to recruit his help up here. He has offered a couple of times to help us out should we go this direction, and as of today, well, we have gone this direction. Like I said, guys, we are on the side of a mountain. The roads are decent. The roads are very decent getting up here. You could get like a Toyota Camry up here. There's not a problem with that, but you certainly wouldn't want to drive super fast. There are some areas that the road gets pretty rough, and you know, what you're looking at here right now, this is probably some of the best of it. Let's walk back up the drive here and I'll show you something else. Before we found this property, we were actually down in the corner of this state looking at a couple of other properties, and they were decent. They weren't bad by any means. They were beautiful, but the property that surrounded them really wasn't all that great. There was no mountain for sure, and it was pretty wooded, but the price was pretty strong, you know, for what it was. You know, we probably could have built a nice little cabin out there and been happy with it. But during the whole process, my wife asked our realtor, a guy named Bob Bowman, about a property that he had listed up here on the mountain that I'm standing on right now. Whew. Man, I tell you what, guys, I am out of shape. I do lift weights. I have a good time with it, but cardio, it's not really a thing, but I'm starting to think maybe it needs to be a thing right about now. But anyway, my wife got to talking with Bob about a property he had up here on the mountain. And I won't get into price here at this point as to what we paid for this, but I will say that the asking price was a little bit more. It was more than what we were looking at. But there was one thing that resonated about this property here that the other property didn't have, and I'm going to show you that. We've got to get up the side of this driveway. It was all good going down the hill. You realize what kind of grade we're on here, and I also realize what kind of shape I'm in right now walking back up the hill. It's not even that big of a hill, but man, I tell you what, I definitely need to hit a Stairmaster, treadmill, something. And this place is beautiful. I just really never thought we'd actually do this. Okay, well, I'm now back at the top of the property, and without a doubt, man, I'm going to have to stop here and kind of collect myself before going a whole lot further. Matter of fact, truth be told, I've been already doing that. But we are in the middle of some very wooded property. This is what we've always been looking for. But the one thing about this property that stood out, and it's the reason we chose this, is what I'm about ready to show you. All right, guys, get ready for this. Okay, there it is. It's a cabin. Well, it's almost a cabin. It's a cabin shell. So the developer that did this property, what he did was he just basically framed out a shell. There's no walls on the inside. It's just an open building at this point. And the reason we chose to go this direction was because the difference between the properties we were looking at, 4 to 5 acres, and this property here was about a $20,000 price difference. I might be able to build this cabin, at least to the shape it's in right now, for that kind of money. Maybe, maybe not. I really don't know. But I do know that we're 4.5 hours away from this place. So me building this by hand, no telling how long that would have taken. Matter of fact, between the expense, the gas, and the time, there's no doubt in my mind we made the right choice. But let me go ahead and show you what we've got here. All right, everybody, what I'm standing in front of here is basically a raised foundation building, and the size of it is, I do believe, about 24 feet by 30 feet long. And it's a little wider than that when, of course, you take into consideration the porch here, which I want to say, if I had to guess, it is about 6 feet off of the house, and then runs, you know, the 30 feet long as far as the house or the cabin shell itself goes. And I'll show you kind of what we've got on the inside here as well, but let me give you a tour, kind of walk around and show you the outside first. All right, so there it is. Now, this little portion that hangs off the end here, it's supposed to be about 10 feet off of the building, and then I think it's 24 feet wide, and probably actually closer to 30 feet wide when you take into consideration that 6-foot overhang of the roof there at the end. So I guess a guy could do a couple of different things with that. You could either, one, you could store a car under there, but man, honestly, between that wooden post and the wall, there's not really good access in order to pull a car, or in this case our Jeep, underneath of that. Now, maybe side-by-side storage, something along those lines, that might work out. In this case, pulling a vehicle, probably not so much. Initially, because the residence is kind of small, you know, like I said, I think it's 24 by 30. And what we very well might do is go ahead and extend this, extend the living quarters out about 10 feet, and then of course, you know, having the 24 feet deep. So that would be an additional 240 square feet added to the residence, and that's something we're really considering doing. All right, here's another angle of it where you can kind of get a better feel for how big that overhang is, or that carport area, and then of course the back side of the building. Now, one thing you will notice is there are no windows, not one. There's several on the front side, none on the rest. So again, this is a starter kit. This is building only, and we finish it how we want it. And that was just fine with us. At the end of the day, for what this property cost us up and over what we were looking at, there's just no way I think we can go ahead and get this property built for the 20 grand extra that we spent over those 4 to 5 acre properties that we were looking at. Not only is there the building here, or at least the shell of a building, but there's also the dirt work and everything done, and the trees have been moved out. The ground's been leveled around where the cabin sits. There's just no way. Now back here, there's a pile of garbage, really. I mean, it's free firewood. I guess I could look at it like that. So we're going to go ahead and burn that in the future, not today. All right, coming around the other side, you're just basically looking at the other side of the cabin. Look at that skyline right there. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, if we remove, and I think we've counted it to about 6 to 10 trees, we're going to have that little bit of skyline right there going all the way across. So that is one of the things that we plan on doing, is removing some trees right there at the front, just to open that up to where we could sit on this porch, face west, and just soak in that beauty. And man, is that beautiful or what? This is just kind of looking out into the woods that surrounds the cabin. And man, I've never lived in a place like this. I've never had this kind of environment, never been able to wake up and just walk right out into it. This is a dream come true, folks. I'm assuming when they cleared the land here, they just shoved all this debris off into the side. Not a big deal. Again, we basically bought land here today. Matter of fact, that brings up an interesting point here. This was not bought on a conventional mortgage. Not at all. Actually, when we were in the Kiamichi wilderness looking for some property down there, we had a realtor mention that there was a bank, I believe it's Communications Federal Credit Union, or Communications Credit Union, whatever, but they offered 5% down for land loans. And man, that really stuck in our head. Matter of fact, we did pursue that. And as it turns out, as long as you've got good credit, and in our case, we're blessed, we do, we were going to be able to get a land loan for 5% down. And we did. And that's how we bought this place. Now, the cabin shell, you think would throw over and make this go as a conventional loan, but it did not, because it's just a shell. Now, if they had developed the cabin into a full functioning home, that would have been the case, but in our case, it didn't. I really figured there's just no way that the land is going to appraise, but we rolled the dice. We went ahead and we put our earnest money down, and sure enough, we made the offer and it did actually appraise. So folks, we were able to get into this with only a 5% down. Of course, we had closing costs in addition to that. So it wasn't like that was really the only cost to deal with, but I don't think you could really beat that. Again, looking down the hill here, you could see quite a bit of debris. There's going to be a lot of chainsaw action here in my future, but once this is done, once the property's cleaned up a little bit, this is going to be epic. Okay, so enough about that. I'll give you the grand tour of what's essentially just a cabin shell. As you can see, we've got a pretty nice little deck here on the front and a nice porch. To be honest with you, I'd like to see about probably 6 feet more porch coming in the future. And that probably will come in the future, because this is on the west side of the building, which is not optimal, but it is optimal for the views. However, when that sun's beating down over here, it's going to get pretty brutal. So we were probably going to go ahead and extend this deck out, like I said, probably about another 6 feet or so, just to extend that living area and get a little bit more shade coming down on us for one of those nights or those afternoons when we're sitting on the porch watching our surroundings. Okay, so let's check out the inside. Like I said, this deck is not huge, but man, it is pretty awesome. Once again, folks, look at that skyline, or what little you could see of it right now. And there's going to be more to come. All right, so here's what we've got. Like I said, I do believe it's 24 feet from that wall to the back wall, and 30 feet from that corner all the way to that corner. In the footage here, it looks insulated. It is not insulated. That's just a vapor barrier on in between the OSB and the studs. I think the guy that built this said these are 9-foot tall ceilings. It would have been nice, however, if we'd have had a cathedral ceiling, but unfortunately it does not. So we're just going to have to work around that and do the best we can to get the look that we want. This is a blank canvas here, without a doubt, and not really 100% sure. My wife's already pretty well got this planned out on paper as to how we are going to build this, and I'm pretty excited to get some studded walls up into position to start getting a little bit better visual of what we're going to have here. Like I said earlier, there are no windows on the back wall or either one of the side walls. There are 2 windows. There's one on each side of the door, and I believe he said these are 6-foot by 7-foot windows. So there are 2, there's one on each side of the door. So the way I'm looking at that is possibly one in a bedroom or one in a dining area and then one in the living area, I think. I think that's what the wife's got chosen. We just got done with closing earlier. We've only been out here just kind of playing around, taking measurements, and kind of walking the property. After they did the survey, we wanted to walk around and kind of see where the property starts and where it ends. When you're first looking at property, especially wooded property, It just looks like trees. Well, folks, there's nothing really crazy going on today, unless, of course, you want to consider signing your life away on a land loan crazy, which in a way I do. But this has been in the plans for quite a few years. Matter of fact, probably at least 10 to 12 years that I could recall, we've been looking at possibly buying land. We've had some opportunities along the way, but we've passed up on them. Life events have taken place, and we've ended up going that direction with finance rather than go ahead and investing in the land. And at this point, we decided it's time. We're going to go ahead and move forward. Once again, the reason that we started the Freedom Adventure, the channel, and the ambulance camper conversion was all directed to where I'm standing at right now. Now, we didn't know we'd end up standing on the side of a mountain like this with a shell of a cabin standing behind us, but that's how it ended out. And once that camper conversion is complete, and we'll use that to commute back and forth, and quite possibly, since it is an E450 chassis, we plan on using that in order to haul a utility trailer up here to the mountain, loaded with raw materials. And everybody, we are gonna do this ourselves. We're not gonna outsource this. There's things that we will outsource, probably the septic. We're gonna have somebody that knows what they're doing do the septic. But when it comes to doing the walls, when it comes to doing so much of this, pretty much everything, the walls, the ceiling, the electrical, the solar, we're doing all that ourselves. Over the years, we've done a lot of projects together, and man, we've had a really good time with those. Matter of fact, for as far back as I could remember, we've pretty much always had some sort of project going as a couple. One of our most recent projects, at least a year or two ago, was building a loft inside of my shop. And if you've watched any of the videos, you've probably seen the loft right above where I shoot my videos at. And of course, if you're watching the video, you're probably also familiar with the E450, the old decommissioned ambulance that we're currently in the process of converting over into a little kind of a miniature Class C motorhome. And we've had a load of fun doing that, but you have to keep in mind that the reason that we've done that conversion is because we knew ultimately we were gonna buy some off-grid land. And that's what we've done. This is all off-grid, and when I say off-grid, what I mean are there's no utilities out here. At this point in time, there are a load of projects coming up that we're gonna be embarking on. Solar power is one of those projects. Rainwater collection is another. Of course, we've got to have a septic system out here in order to take care of, when nature calls. It's very possible that we're going to extend this building out just a little bit. I'd almost be silly not to. There's already a roof. It's not a concrete foundation. It's a raised foundation, so it's not going to be terribly difficult to do. Now, digging holes for the posts that go in, I don't think I'm going to be doing that by hand. Once again, I'm going to have to find some way in order to do that. I'll either have to rent some equipment like an auger, maybe a mini skid with an auger attachment, don't know. Pretty confident though from looking over this property that I'm not going to be doing it with a post hole digger. There's just really a ton of projects that are going to need to get done out here, and it's going to keep us busy for a long, long time. We have kind of a 5-year plan in mind for getting this thing 100% livable. You know, obviously this is something that we plan on cash flowing. We don't want to take a large loan on this. We're pretty much done in terms of borrowing money, and we don't want to keep doing that. So building this and being able to cash flow it as we move is going to be very, very important. And regardless of how long that takes, we feel like that's kind of important now at this point in our lives. And the projects are going to come one at a time, and I will be documenting all those projects, and I'd love for you to join me on them. I think it'll be fun for us to do and for you to watch. Off-grid has always appealed to us. There's a ton of different reasons why it does. Mainly it's simplicity. It's escape from the rat race, which almost all of us are involved in, at least in one way or the other. Love it or hate it, most of us are deeper into the rat race than what any of us want to be. Chasing simplicity, chasing nature, getting away from everything that we deal with on a day-to-day there in the city. That's what we're here for. And if that's something that appeals to you, subscribe to the channel, check it out, see what you think about it. We're going to be talking about a lot of things along the way, things from escaping the rat race. We're going to be talking about the projects that we do here along the way, everything from the freshwater collection system maybe blowing out a wall, making the cabin a little bit bigger than what it is. Septic install, putting up walls, kitchen, countertops, you name it. I mean, there's actually, if you want to know the truth right now, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. It's kind of one of those moments where we're sitting here looking at everything around us here like, what have we done? We just committed, man, did we just commit to something that we have bitten off way too much on? It kind of feels that way, or it feels like that here today. I think that'll chill out as we move forward, and you can only do one project at a time. I felt much the same way when we started converting the ambulance, the camper conversion. And, you know, when we did the gut out and we ripped it all apart, and I found myself sitting there looking at everything, I knew I was vested at that point. There was no going back, because what you just did to that vehicle made it essentially worthless unless you bring it back to something. And what we brought it back to was all the glory that it stands in right now. And we're about 90% done, and it's going to be pretty awesome when it's complete. So I'm familiar with that feeling of despair, or not really despair, I guess, but intimidation. And that's kind of where I'm at here today. I'm showing up here, and you know, the first time we looked at this property, there was so much to take in. I knew I loved it, and I really did know that I wanted this property. I knew it would be good for us to own as a couple, and it would be the right direction for us, you know, at this point in our lives moving forward. But there was a lot of things that I'm sitting here looking at today, like the amount of cleanup that has to be done on this property. There's trees everywhere. There's stuff that they dozed when they leveled out the land and made the clearing for the cabin. There's not a lot of trash, at least not that I've run into, so that's good. There's just so much to do. There's so much to do, and it's going to be a matter of having to bring a lot of tools at one time. Folks, I can't walk across my shop without forgetting a tool. So to drive halfway across the state and get out here and realize that I'm short something, it's probably about a 30-minute drive to the nearest town around here, and we're probably going to get really familiar with that drive, if you want to know the truth, because there's no doubt that there's going to be things we forget, and it's going to complicate things. These are the things that are overwhelming me right now. Once again, I think there's no doubt that it's all going to be worth it in the end. So over the next 4 to 5 years, the Freedom Adventure is going to continue. Only instead of just being a ambulance camper conversion, and like I said, the camper's not going anywhere. It's going to be lived in at this point. So everything that I've done to it, you're going to get to see how everything worked out. You're going to get to see if things failed and I had to go back and redo them. You're going to get to see all that. But the Freedom Adventure, it's morphing. It's changing. We're going to document that. So I'll ask you one more time, can't hurt. If this is something you're interested, please like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I know we're going to have a blast doing it. And if the off-grid journey appeals to you, if escaping the rat race appeals to you, come check us out. Well, folks, that's really all I've got for you here today. We've got about a 4.5-hour drive to head back to Oklahoma City. I've got to be at work in the morning. Today's Wednesday, so it's not like an extended weekend or anything, unfortunately. I hope I see you soon, guys. Happy adventures, and I'll see you soon. Y'all take care.